All right, welcome folks back to another Love Discussion. I am Jahal Amar Jarvis here with Let Our Voices Echo. I'm here with Keyshon. He's actually the proud owner of Young Homies Ballin'. And from what I understand, that's his creative outlet, similar to Love, but I'm gonna let you talk about it a little more.
Yeah, so what's going on? It's your boy, Mr. Keys, Keyshon, Keyson. Everybody know me. But here today, Young Homies Ballin'. That's the clothing brand. That's the music label. That's the entrepreneur branch manager thing. But yeah, we got a lot going on between the podcast, Prolific Culture, myself, Keyson, managed by Mike Miller. Shouts out to Wood Visuals, and a whole bunch of artists like Aunt J, Boog, and my dude Hef. So yeah, stay tuned. We're here to talk, kick it with my man Jahal. Let's get it.
All right, so he did better than I did with this little intro, so we're just gonna get right into it. So, I brought you on here, and it's kind of perfect that you have something that says Young Homies Ballin', because right now I think it's important to kind of focus on the youth, you know what I'm saying? So right now we're in a time where a lot of things are very unpredictable. Things we don't know what's going to be the next month or the next 6 months. And right now a lot of things are being figured out, and one of those things is like how we are going to move forward with our children. That's with the schooling, that's with even college, things like that. You see kids going to school for a weekend and they get it shut down. Fortunately enough for us, we didn't have this experience growing up. We were able to go throughout school, have, little memories that, play sports, do, normal things as children would. And with the way the world is going right now, I mean, to speak on COVID, because that's what's happening right now, but, there's way more going on. We have a lot of chaos in America at the moment. And I think, for one, it's influencing our kids. You can say positively or negatively, depends on the kid, I guess. But things are changing, and how do we go about making it so that we're focusing on the next generation and making it so that they can do something positive for generations and generations future? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's weird, man, because you think about it, like, we're from the days where like you would play bubblegum in the dish,
yeah.
Hide and seek or hide and go get it, whichever one you was doing at that time.
Right.
And just social interaction where you go on sports teams or, music or different things like that, or just even in the classroom, just passing notes, like things like that are just not okay these days, where there's just the biggest worry about we don't want people to get sick, or, you gotta distance yourself.
That's the truth. And, as human beings, we are social creatures, so there's the need to be with other people. There's the need to be around and, talking like we are right now. There's the need to be just, I guess, getting the energy from another human being. I think that kind of helps us move forward. We can go back to keeping in mind COVID. We had quarantine for a while, so everybody was like locked up, not being able to socialize as normal. You might have had a few people at home if you had like a significant other or like children or whatnot. And but for the most part, that's all you really had for a decent amount of time. I mean, we come from New York and we were shut down for quite a bit of time. So, with that being said, we're starting to realize how humans are reacting to not having the social interaction. What's ending up happening is, I feel like people are a little more willing to risk certain things. Like right now, I guess like health would be one of those things, because now it's not at the point where people really care to follow guidelines or rules and regulations, speaking specifically on COVID. But, it's more prevalent now that people just want to live. And that's obvious. That's just what we want to do in general. So with that, it's just becoming like, I think the word for it is stir crazy. People don't want to be locked up, cooped up anymore. You want to go and enjoy life as it would be. But I think also in turn, people are enjoying life differently. They're doing different things that they might not have been doing prior to COVID being what it is now. Yeah, it's definitely changing the game. But even to take it away from the virus, it's like we could even take it into like what's going on socially in our like culture. There's a lot of things going on where people are forcing themselves into positions of separation. There's like prejudice happening now, so there's more willingness to separate yourself from others. There's, just, I guess, fear. So now there's a natural separation between individuals and groups like that. So just touch on that briefly.
Yeah, just like starting off with the whole COVID and isolation with family, like you're by yourself, or if you live with family, you're just around these people every day. So like it either makes you guys closer or like has some secrets come to light that you might not have realized about this person because you might not always be in their face.
Right.
So that's a whole new dynamic that you're dealing with. And then two, like myself personally, COVID really made me like think about things like, where like anything can happen at any point in time. So I just want to make sure that I'm doing all I can do every day, even more after Kobe passed, which really inspired the most. But especially after that, like, we got to get to it. It's to the point where
that makes sense.
It needs to get out there. So yeah, I mean, COVID really either sparked you or it just was just crazy because you're just like in front of these people every day. A lot of people thrive on social dynamics because they're getting to show different sides of themselves or get out of what they're usually in at home.
Right. And, like to touch on that briefly, it's like, I respect the fact that you said it sparked you and made you a little more motivated to do maybe something a little different. And I think that's with most of us. I think what this period of time, just being allowed to look at ourselves introspectively and look at who we are as people, we've figured out, one, what we like, what we dislike, maybe different things that we might be willing to do now that certain things are not allowed to happen. We also had a lot of downtime within ourselves to kind of just really figure out who we are and how we want to move forward, because you can't really do anything for so long. So it's like, I have the time now to really build who I am, discover what I want to do with myself. And, for me, this outlet itself came through that. I had a lot of time just to kind of reevaluate what I was doing, what my purpose was, I guess. And, one day something happened, I think it was like a news thing, and it kind of just sparked the idea that, we just need a community where people are able to have these conversations where it's just you and I. I mean, we go back quite a bit, but, I haven't been able to fully follow your Young Homies Ballin', and I'm proud to see what you're doing with everything. But with that being said, now we're sitting here having a discussion about how we can make not just you and I, but how can we help everybody, move forward wholesomely. And I think that has a lot to do with just really knowing who you are. And I think the time that we've been going through and the period that we just are kind of coming out of now really did a lot for people. It either did a lot for you or it kind of made you even worse off, but hopefully it helped.
Yeah, for sure. Like my situation, I was driving in Albany and it was like during the COVID time. So it was like nighttime, 12 o'clock. Stopped at a red light. It was like car in front of me, car in back of me. Like another car just like crashes into the car behind me. And it was like a whole 4-car accident, car totaled, ambulance, everything. So I was laid up for like about 2 weeks and just like thinking, just like, damn, like stuff happens just like that. So at that point, it was just like, all right, I already know who I am. So now it's like, how do we get to where we ultimately want to go? So all that time was just like game planning and just waiting for stuff to open up or taking advantage of what was already there and turning that into like the baby steps and things.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I want to say, glad to have you here now, live and well, ready for action. I had this guy driving around for about an hour before we got here. So now that I'm hearing that, I'm like, damn, you know what I'm saying? But glad to have you here. But, to just get back to that, it's crazy what a little bit of trauma can do to people. You know what I mean? Like, I think to a point, human beings kind of have to be shaken up. I'm not saying you have to go through something as traumatic as a car accident or something like that, but I think it's important for human beings to experience something that shakes their life up to where it might make you, if you're like kind of living on a high, it'll knock you down a few notches to kind of humble you, you know what I mean? And then it changes perspective. Now you're able to see life through a bigger a wider lens, because now it's not all about the immediate stuff. It's not all about, I guess things that are just not that important. Once you go through a little something that shakes you up, it really changes and makes you reevaluate your life as it is, and then you start changing what you find important. And speaking on myself personally, like, I mean, I thought I had a pretty good grasp on who I was just prior, and you know, I still think that I was okay, but like I really didn't know who I fully was. So I was able to take the time. You know, this past year has really been a blessing because it's opened my eyes to a lot of things, and what I found is that I just was holding certain things way too important that shouldn't have had my time, you know, shouldn't have had my energy. And with that, I didn't have enough energy to give to the important things, you know what I'm saying? And like I tell everybody, I tell my friends, family, who it doesn't matter. I'll tell people like this, you know, human beings, just imagine we're just like powered by a battery. You know what I mean? You have just a certain amount of energy to expend a day, let's say. And if you start putting that energy towards things that you can't control or things that, you know, aren't important, you know, importance is relative to whoever thinks something's important. But, you know, when you're putting energy towards things that you really have no control over, you can't change, what do you have left to give? You know what I mean? That can go with a lot of aspects of life, but in my life in general, it was just a lot of stuff that was taking away from what I wanted to be. I was spending a lot of energy on, you know, maybe convincing myself that my life was better than it was. I was spending energy on just like, for lack of a better term, I was bullshitting, you know what I mean? Like it was just a lot of energy spent on bullshit. So when I finally figured out my life and realized, okay, I have a battery now that's full. I need to figure out where I want to put that energy at this point. So like going back to like how things are changing, I think it starts with the individual, yes, but in terms of how we move forward in the future, the individual has to know themselves well enough to know that there are certain things that just really aren't worth energy. If we each as individuals can know that wholeheartedly, we can go out in the world and, you know, have this perspective where it's like, I just want to offer myself as best as I can to something, knowing that this is a cause that is worth it, or this is something that is worth it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I'm a Gemini, and my moon sign is a Cancer.
Okay.
So inside, I have feelings that
Okay.
you know I can't give to everybody because
right.
you know not everybody reciprocates the feelings that need to be responded back with.
Right.
So like again, like helping countless people or wanting to see people succeed and putting stuff that you might have going on to the burner just to make sure that they get back on their feet. But sometimes it's not worth it because you know they don't. I don't blame them. I just say that they don't understand, you know, the importance
It's slightly
of that
ignorance.
situation.
Yeah. That's a good point. You might just not have the full gravity of what the situation is. And that just takes time. That might take age. That might take, you know, again, trauma. It might take a specific situation to like bring that perspective to you. And I think that's very important too, because a lot of people are just kind of going through life, going through the motions. They don't really know what they're doing, if that makes sense. It's like, people do what they think they should be doing. And to a point that makes sense, you know, wake up in the morning, handle your responsibilities, whatever they may be, whether it's going to work, you know, taking care of your children, it doesn't matter what that is. Take care of your responsibilities, you know, be able to provide for yourself, go to bed and do it again the next day. For the most part, that's generally what we're supposed to do as human beings. But, you know, I think we're all at the same age where you start to realize, I don't really necessarily want to do that same process every day for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? I'm at a point now, yeah, I do it because it pays the bills. It allows me to move forward in my life responsibly. But do I want to be sitting? Right now, my job, I sit behind a desk and, you know, it's fine. It does what it does and I enjoy my job. But it's like, do I want to do that for the rest of my life? I don't know if I do. I can't say I do. You know, I would prefer to do something that's more in line with who I am as a person. But at the same time, you have to work yourself there. But in order to do so, you kind of have to bite the bullet and do what everybody else is doing so that you can kind of get yourself in a position where you can fully focus on you. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nother route in terms of, you know, knowing who you are. But there's certain things that we just can't avoid. And I think one of those things that we can't avoid is just handling our responsibilities as human beings in the world. That's not just going to work. That's handling your responsibilities, saying like, okay, Keyshon, if I saw you, out on the street and, maybe your car was broke down, it could be anybody. But if I saw that and I was able to help, I feel like personally, one of my responsibilities as a human being might be to offer you whatever I can, even if it's just in passing. Maybe I can't stop. I'll call you like an emergency service so that you're not just stuck and stranded or something, or report whatever it may be. Me as a human being, I think there's certain responsibilities that need to be fulfilled, and one of which is just going through life, if you're able to do so, helping. It's not like, people have a very weird misconception on what helping is. It's not me giving you money. It's not me, shacking you up in a house or something like that. It could be something as simple as just like giving you a word of advice. You know what I mean? If I know something better than you know it, I'm doing my best to help you by offering you what I know. That's pretty much it. You know what I mean? I think with everything that we're talking about, there's this dynamic where, again, life is changing. Society is changing, and we have to change. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, touching on that, I remember Nipsey Hussle said it best. The best thing we could do as a human is inspire others. Where if you're inspiring one person, they're carrying that energy with them. And that's a whole different energy than what probably they had at that point in time. And then that just keeps going and giving and giving and giving. And your job is just to keep doing that every day, whether it's just you being you. Never try to go out and force it, just naturally do it. Where if you're naturally being the best that you can be, as your job is as a human, is to be the best that you can be, not to be anybody else but you, and just make sure you're doing it to the highest standard.
And at the end of the day, that's really all you can do 100%. You can't focus on what the next man is doing. You have to focus on who you are and be the best you that you can be, just as you said. And I like the Nipsey Hussle quote, because that's just it. If you can go out in the world and try to inspire or try to motivate or try to, again, help, at least you're doing your part. And then in turn, that energy, that's one person that you help. But say that person goes out in the world and now there's two people that they help, and that just builds exponentially. But you have to be willing to go out in the world and be a person, and I guess be a beacon of light to other people. And that's why I think starting off with this discussion, the youth is important, because those are going to be the people who are out here inspiring in a few years. I mean, we're fairly young people right now, so it's like we still have the opportunity to go out and do things. You're doing it with your platform. I'm trying to do it here, but I'm not going to be able to necessarily relate to whomever's coming up next. You know what I mean? They know themselves better than we know them. You know what I mean? That's just natural. So I think in our best interest, we have to kind of mold the minds of our youth to a point where they're confident in being themselves, confident in knowing that life as it was isn't going to be life as they know. You know what I mean? I think that's just life in general, but it's been so drastic, the changes. I mean, you go from just last year, everybody running around, I could literally be all up on you, right? You know what I'm saying? But now there's this, I guess, again, fear that you have that wasn't existent before, that children are growing up into, not knowing anything else. So that's a whole different realm of life that I can't relate to necessarily. All I can do is give you the perspective from where I come from and hope that you can take that and run with it for your generation. So, with that, this community that we've created with Love is to inspire people to kind of go out and be progressive and be positive, however that may be. We might not agree with everybody, we might not understand everyone, but if I can take the time, just as we are right now, you're speaking to me, I'm going to take the time to try to understand you as best I can, and that's all I can really do, and then we can move forward together. But until human beings are willing to do that, we just have to keep doing what we're doing. You got to keep being you. You got to keep trying to strive to inspire and hope for the best.
That's really it. It starts with being there, first of all. Like, you being there shows that you're committed. And then once you're that, all right, now we got to get to it. Let's figure out this thing. Let's figure out how to get where we need to go. And if everybody had that mentality, then it's a beautiful place.
Right.
But that's something that takes time to develop and takes time and patience to understand.
It does take time. It does take time, and people need to realize that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not. This change that is necessary for the world to be what it should be, it's not going to happen in a couple days even. In order to move forward, people need to do less of, well, you know, I might not even see the change myself, so why should I try? No, it's the point. Try your best while you're here, and you might not very well see what you're doing, but later down the road, you could have made a difference in somebody's life, whether it's 1 or 1,000, but at least you did your part while you were here. And I think you're doing what you can do as best you can, and that's really all we can ask of each other. And it's all about collaboration.
Right, because in the eyes of others, you could be doing something totally different than what you're thinking. So when you correlate with others and when you talk to other people and they're telling you, yo, this inspired me or this like touched me in this way, and you're like, whoa, I didn't even think I was doing it that way.
Absolutely.
But that's what happens. That's why you always can't, don't get me wrong, you got to be your #1 fan always, because it starts with you first, but don't have a closed ear to others, because at the end of the day, they might give you that push that you're looking for. Or they might give you that direction that you're needing at that point in time. So it's always important to involve others in your process, but also make sure that you control your creative process as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that ties into just an idea of just remaining inclusive. You might not be best friends with everybody, but just make sure that you're not excluding other people because they might be different. You know, we have to break that conditioning where we don't want to deal with things that are not the same as us or not normal. You know what I mean? Things might not seem normal to us, but what is actually normal? So instead of thinking in that light, we must, you know, start, like you said, don't close ears to others. You just allow yourself to listen, and then maybe you'll gain a perspective a little different than what you had just 5 minutes ago. And I think that's very important. But at the end of the day, I'm glad to have you here, Keyshon. This has been really good. And I hope to see success with Young Homies Ballin'. Check him out. He makes music. He does a lot of things. He's got a lot of hats to wear. But glad to have you, and we'll do it again.
Appreciate it. I Hate Spring 2, available October 25th. And then also, too, we got a nice little Halloween project coming soon. More details on that. But I Hate Spring, October 25th. Please check it out. Appreciate you guys always.
And that's a wrap.